This is a Memorial Day, like Pastor Donna said, two different purposes. And also for me, very passionate to my heart, because I've had one uncle here that you've seen and that died in the Normandy invasion, 101st Airborne. And I'm going to read some letters that his mother really didn't take for a fact that he was killed. The commanding officer at the time wrote her back and many more letters. And the flag you see is from 1948 when he was finally brought home. It was draped over his casket. And the other thing that I've had for a lot of years is original poster, giving people a lot, give it your best. And we could think of that as much as these military men thought of the situations they were in as a situation that we're in as Christians. We are fighting a battle for souls, and we have the ultimate power of prayer to help in all these causes. When it comes to first, that my Uncle Elmer, which I never met, and hopefully the other side of heaven we will. This is written to his mother, the 21st of July, 1944, because she wrote wondering what had happened and why, and they had even had a chance to write it back. The original letters from July 1st, 1944. And a lot of these letters are probably written today and all through the century and times to families and mothers. It says, "Dear Miss Glasser, it is with deep regret that I confirm the tragic news of the loss of your son during the first stages of the invasion of France. I realize that any words that I can say are small and impotent. During this period of grief, however, I do hope that you may find some small degree of solace in the fact that Elmer died a hero's death for a cause in which we all believe. I was quite well acquainted with Elmer, and knowing him as I did, it was my belief that he willingly made his sacrifice for the ideas of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which we all cherish and hold so dear. The loss of Elmer and others like him is a distinct blow to the regiment, felt keenly by myself and other comrades. Knowing how it hurts to miss his face and personality in a regiment gives some idea of the suffering it may cause you at home. The task for which your son gave his life is difficult and yet unfinished. However, I promise that we of the regiment shall carry on with increased vigor and inspiration for the ideals in which Elmer so freely believed. Please accept my humble regrets and deepest sympathy, in which all the members of the regiment join in this, our time of great sorrow." And it was most sincerely yours, Howard R. Johnson, Colonel, 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment, Commander. Actually, Howard Johnson, I found out, was actually killed in September of that same year. So his mother got a letter from somebody else, probably just like this. And that happens all, and these people fought for the ideals that we believe in today. And then after that also, my uncle Jimmy, that he survived through the war, ended up with the Bronze Star. And it's kind of an ironic situation to where my uncle was killed, my Uncle Elmer was killed by a machine gun's nest in a field in San Marco, France. That was the final letter in 1948 that my grandmother had received on what happened to him. He was actually shot in the thigh and the shoulder, which probably I would think that he bled to death being in the thigh because nobody could get to him because of the high rates of fire. And ironically, that's exactly what my Uncle Jimmy did, was actually take out a German's machine gun's nest, which helped his company advance. And for him, and this is Phil, if anybody wants to read of just men that have received the Bronze Star in just a few days of that time. And they call him Gordon, but we call him Uncle Jimmy. Gordon J. Glasser, Private First Class, then Private, Infantry Company C, 253rd Infantry Regiment, for heroic achievement in action on the 3rd of March, 1945, in the vicinity of Bugaben, Germany. During an attack on a quarry near Bugaben, Private First Class Glasser's squad was pinned down by enemy machine gun fire. Private First Class Glasser crawled through a depression in the terrain to reach a position on the machine gun's flank. drawing fire from several points as he did so. When he reached the position, the enemy machine gun fire turned a heavy volley of fire on him. He then moved again to get a better position from which he was able to kill the 2 enemy machine gunners with rifle fire, thus enabling his squad to advance. Private First Class Glasser's exceptional bravery and devotion to duty under fire reflect credit upon himself and the Armed Forces of the United States. Entered military service from Buffalo, New York. Now, as we see, these men are fighting for causes that they believe in. And we have to fight for a cause that we believe in. And I think a lot of these men, I think they would be very disappointed in the state of affairs today in our country. And we have an opportunity through God to be able to turn people around, to be able to give them hope. Okay? And I'm sure letters like this we hear every day from, all veterans of all stages of war, all wars that we've been involved in. And my father also was a veteran of World War II. His ship was hit by a torpedo in the Pacific Theater. And I remember him telling me the most about it was, he didn't say too much and he passed when I was young, is that it hit with such a resounding blast that he was pretty close. And the next thing he remembered, he was just hanging onto a pole and not knowing where he was, the concussion type feeling. And then he just thought of, first thing he thought of was, thank God I'm still alive. And then everything came back to him, and then they started performing their duties. But the ship was banged up pretty bad, went into the engine room, killed 28 men. They had to seal off, and they actually made it back to Boston, only traveling 2 or 3 knots all the way back. He was ultimately shipped over to England because they didn't really need a skeleton crew on the ship. But somebody had written a poem of that day, and actually it happened on a Friday the 13th. And I'd like to read that because this is how these men felt about one another. And just like that scripture we heard about laying down our lives for a friend. Friday the 13th, I never gave it a thought, a day that I would never have sought. We were 80 miles from Formosa shore, 230 miles from China and that door. After evening chow, air defense blew, more planes coming in, which we all knew. 35 enemy planes, the skipper said. Our cap will make sure they're dead. We were almost sure they would too, but somehow 11 got through. 7 came on our port, coming in fast. We opened fire and got 2 with our blast. The ships on the port got the other 5. The 4 on our starboard started to dive. 1 headed for the Wasp, but made too short a run. He turned on our ship, then dropped a big one. Our murderous fire hit him. He made a splash, but his torpedo struck us with a resounding crash. It happened so sudden, but yet it was true, for there we lied in that ocean of blue. We express our pride to the Wichita and the rest, who protected us and pulled us away from that hornet's nest. Our speed that night was 2 knots, and not much more the next day, but we still were retreating farther and farther away. Tugs came up the following day as we started our run, but swore we'd be back before the sun. But that day, the same day, a sneak attack came in, started his dive, then he'll not boast, for we riddled and burned him alive. 5 days passed, they were out of our reach, their planes could not touch us from their breach. Admiral Halsey of the Great Third Fleet sent us a message of their defeat. To the Canberra officers and crew, I'm proud to be the commander of you. Your courage and guts will be a Navy tradition, and my sympathy to the men who gave their lives for this mighty mission. And there's actually so many other little notes in here from my grandmother, and on his bereavement card she wrote, which it's even hard to, she wrote on the back of it about a Billy Graham crusade that was coming up, and she wrote this little point in here, beseech me, O Lord, and know my heart try me, and now my thoughts shall see if there be any wicked way in me, in the way everlasting. Better is he who is in you than he who is in the world. And this has always touched me, and 2 things today I got the honor of is being able to do these 2 things. One, ultimately Christ's memorial. That do this in remembrance of me, to remember him, what he did for us, and these men, what also they had done for us. And I am so thankful, for both and all of these men, and all of the men and women have a special place in my heart that have served always. And, just a couple scriptures that are really for these men and even what God has said. Romans 13:7, give honor and respect to those whom it is due. That's honor and respect. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. That's in Psalm 33:12. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be men of courage. Be strong. Remember the days of old. Consider the generations long past. Ask you, Father, and he will tell you. Your elders, and they will explain it to you in Deuteronomy. And the most one that I think is really for this day and age and today, where we can help so much the people recognize Christ, is if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. 2 Chronicles 7:14. So we have an ability, no matter who we meet, who we greet, who we touch, to be able to, on this wonderful weekend, where, it's okay to go out and have fun and enjoy, and a lot of people do, but just don't lose that meaning. And take Jesus with you, when you go out there. And take the memory of these fine men and so many others like them out there with you today. And the ultimate memorial for Jesus Christ, that his words to the apostles, this is the bread, this is my body, broken for you. Take this in remembrance of me. And then he also says, this is my blood, as he hands them the wine. Drink this. This is my blood. Do this in remembrance of me. So today, let's take that honor of Jesus Christ by taking communion in remembrance of him. So you don't have to be a member of this church to take communion. Pastor Don's going to come up and help me take care of this. So this side, if you'd like to come up, and then when you're done, just go around and sit.